Today we're going to look at affixes, right? Now, affixes are divided into a few things. They're divided into prefixes, suffixes, and stems, also known as root words sometimes. And you need to know both of these because in an exam or a test, someone could ask you, give me the stem or give me the root word, and you need to know what they are. So let's start right away with a word that contains all of them. Now, every word must have a root word, even if it's on its own. Otherwise, it's not a word. But not every word will have a prefix, and not every word will have a suffix. For example, if I have the word cat, cat does not have a prefix or a suffix. So prefix here meaning attached in the front, and a suffix meaning attached in the back. Right, so if I look up here, so let's give those some colors. Let's say this one is yellow and this one is green. So if I look at the word cat, there are no suffixes in there. Let's make our stems pink then. Okay, disappearing, my root word or my stem would be appear. And then my prefix would be dis, and my suffix would be the ing, disappearing. Now, there is a prerequisite for something being a stem. It needs to be able to work. Now, you might be like, oh no, but it's pear. Isn't there, pear is a fruit. Isn't that the root word? No, because it has nothing to do with the meaning of this word. The meaning of appear, as in it's not there, and then you see it appear, right? Like I can make the letter A appear, right, out of nowhere. It still matches meaning with these suffixes and prefixes, because then all the suffix and the prefix does is it changes that stem's meaning a little bit, right? So disappear, dis, creating the opposite. A lot of prefixes will make an antonym, right? So it's the opposite of appear, right? And other times, all it's doing is it's changing the tense, right? Appearing. So that one changes it from simple present to continuous present tense, and that's how you can see it. So you have to be careful when you look at a word that looks like it might have prefixes and suffixes, but it doesn't really. For example, you might look at the word history and you might immediately go, oh, there's the word story, that must be the root, and then that is the prefix he. And it's like, no, that's just one word, right? And you also have to be careful not to confuse prefixes and suffixes with compound nouns, and I'll show you what those are. If I look at something like landslide, then you might say like, oh, but slide is my root word or my stem, and land is my prefix. But it's not, no. They are two words on their own. Because if I were to separate these words from each other, let's see, okay, disappearing. Ing doesn't mean anything on its own. Dis doesn't mean anything on its own. Usually a prefix or a suffix, that's the reason why it's different from a stem or a root, is that the prefix and the suffix don't mean anything on their own. They're just used to change other words. You cannot use them on their own. So landslide is actually two nouns put together, two roots, two stems put together for a new word, and we call that a compound noun, which is a noun made up of more than one word. Now, some prefixes and suffixes will not just uh, be added to a word, but they will have to change the way that that word is spelled. For example, if I look at unbelievable, immediately I can see that, oh no, we had it as yellow. The un here is my prefix, right? Changing it into the opposite. And able here being my suffix going in the back. But the problem is believe is not really a word on its own. I'll break it up so you can see it. Just look at that stem. The actual stem is believe. Right, let me just unhighlight that for you. So be careful. In an exam or a test, if they ask you what the stem is or what the root is, if you say believe, you will not get the point. Right. It needs to be believe. Okay. There are quite a few of these where especially it's mostly the suffix that goes in the back that will change, because the problem is if you don't change that spelling, then it becomes believable, believable. So they have to take out the e there and change the spelling to make it into a new word. So let's look at the another tricky suffix. If I have words that we add the on here, the ion, sometimes also tion or sion, suffix to. Now, with a lot of them, if I want to change discuss from a verb into a noun, it becomes discussion. Right, I just add my my suffix over there. All right, oops, discolored it. There we go. All right, but when I get to communicate, it becomes a bit more complicated. If I want to make that into a noun, communication, right? So the E falls away and you add your suffix there. It's not going to be communication, right? So the E falls away. So when you are asked for the stem, it's not going to be communicat, it's going to be communicate. So just be careful there. It can even get more complicated if you look at something like explode, where if I add the ion, it becomes explosion. So not only does the E fall away, but the DE falls away, and we have your suffix added on there. Okay, now I think in an exam or a test, if I were to ask you to tell me what the root word is, I would have to say explode would be correct. If I asked you what the suffix is, you could either have said the SION or the ION. I think I would accept both because it modifies the way the word is spelled when you change it into a noun instead of a verb. So then let's just review and go through a few examples, see how you do as we go through these words and try to divide them into their root words, suffixes, prefixes, see if they actually have those. So if I look at commonly, right, what does this word have? What does it not? What is the root? Does it have a suffix or a prefix? Okay, think about it. Give it about 5 seconds. All right, common would be your root word or your stem, and the ly would be your suffix. Okay, teaches, quite easy. Give it a few seconds to think about it. All right, teach is of course your root, and it has a suffix over there. Right. Millionaire. Look at that one for a few seconds. Nope, lion is not the root word there. It has million, and then there is your suffix. Okay, let's look at unsuccessful. Give you a few seconds to think about it. Right. We have our first prefix, un, and then success, the whole thing there, is our root word, and full being our suffix. So prefix, root word, suffix, the whole deal. Then let's look at our last one. Also, try to think, what would the root be? Say the root word out loud and how you would spell it. Give you a few seconds to think about it. All right, so of course we have a prefix, and we have a root word, and we have a suffix. But if they were to ask you to write down the root, it would be happy, right? Because the ly changes. I mean, it's the same thing when you say something like the plural of party becomes parties, right? If you add that suffix s, it changes the y to an ies. It's the same here. You add the ly, it changes that there to a I. The y changes to an I. Otherwise, I mean, let me show you how it would look if it was still a Y. That looks really janky. That looks really strange. Okay, so just remember those terms, right? Remember what is a prefix, what is a suffix, what is a root word or a stem, where do we divide them, and how to recognize them. Thank you.